In this video, I'm going to show you how I actually use Claude day to day. Like many of you, I've tried all the different AI tools. I started with ChatGPT, played around with Gemini. I even explored OpenClaw for a little bit. But now Claude is pretty much all I use. That's because they've added a bunch of tools and connectors and skills that make it so easy to actually improve your workflow. And I'm not just talking about basic writing and research. It helps me prep for meetings automatically, drafts email responses overnight, and even keeps me from getting canceled. This is something anybody can do, and I promise you, it's really easy. All right, level one is to use Claude's skills. If you're not familiar, skills are just a set of instructions that allow you to execute a task. So instead of having to type in a prompt and ask follow-up questions and things like that, this just kind of packages it all together. Now, here's a handful of skills that I actually use and really like. All of these are skills that I built myself. First one is my Ask HR skill. I don't work in a corporate office anymore, so I'm always worried I'm gonna say something or post something that has an offensive joke or something like that. Basically, I just have a lot of blind spots. So I created this skill that basically acts as my HR manager. It flags potential issues, and also I set it up so that it can actually teach me over time. Here's why this might be offensive to some people, and here's what you should do next time. It's been really helpful. Another skill I built is just called email. I trained it on my voice and also had it check for common AI issues. So I either paste in an email I've already written, or I just have it generate an email for me. And it does it in exactly my voice, and it doesn't sound like AI. Another skill I built is called Hatchet. And all this does is it takes my existing content and cuts it in half without losing the meaning. And I view this skill almost like a keyboard shortcut. Anytime I have a block of text, I just hit \hatchet and it cuts it in half. And you can just keep doing this and it'll keep cutting in half while keeping the same meaning. It's a really useful skill. And again, it was dead simple to set up. Another skill I use all the time is fact check, which just like it sounds, just checks all my facts. Is this accurate? What's the source? And it's really helpful, especially when I write a newsletter. It'll go in and cross-reference the different things and the links that I've included to see if they're from legit sources, are they taken out of context? All that kind of stuff's really helpful. Another one I use all the time is prompt. We all know prompting is really important, giving the right context and instructions and things like that. But sometimes I don't want to take the time to type up a whole prompt, or I want to make sure I do it the right way. So what this skill does is it just asks me different questions and then creates the prompt for me. And it does it according to the guidelines that Anthropic has set out for what makes a good prompt. And then when it creates the prompt, I can then just run it. Sounds like a simple thing, but it's really useful. I did also create a find skill prompt where Claude will just search through different marketplaces to try and find a skill that I'm looking for. But honestly, I don't use this that much because anytime I need a skill, I just make one. That way it's customized to how you actually use it. Plus you don't have to worry about any security issues from just downloading some random skill. So all you have to do is just go over to the Customize tab, then create a skill, and then Claude will basically walk you through it. But where these skills really become powerful is when you combine them together. So for example, I like to use my email skill to draft an email, and then I'll use either my Ask HR or my fact check skill. And you can do this all in just a single prompt. Just type in the skill you want by using /, add your instructions, and it runs by itself. You can also create meta skills, meaning you can combine different skills together and that itself becomes a skill. And sometimes I'll even just ask Claude for recommendations. I'll say, look at all the skills that I have and recommend a skill that I can create that combines some of these skills together. So for example, maybe I'll have it create a piece of content for me in my voice, fact check that content, then use Hatchet to trim it down, and then do one last final check with HR. Then I have a piece of content ready to go for LinkedIn or wherever else I want to put it. And of course you can do this with emails or anything else. Then if you really want to take this to the next level, you add what are called connectors. And these are just ways to connect to different apps. And this is where things really start to change. So for example, I connected my Gmail and my Google Calendar. And what that allows me to do is check for any upcoming meetings and then send me a brief for those meetings. It'll tell me who I'm meeting with, any action items that are outstanding based on our email conversation, and it understands the meeting type, whether it's internal or let's say it's a sales meeting, it'll pull in information about that person and their company. If you're in sales, this is a no-brainer, but even just for internal meetings, it's so helpful. I can even have it draft emails for me. I can ask it to look for any unread emails and then draft a reply. It's not actually going to send those emails, but then I can just go into my drafts folder, make some tweaks if I want to, and then send them. And of course, these emails will be drafted in my voice. I can fact check them if I want, or any other skills that I want to invoke in this process. Now, maybe Claude doesn't have a connector to the exact app that you want. For example, there's no YouTube connector, and I wanted to build a skill that can pull data from YouTube. So in order to do this, I had to connect to what's called an MCP server. The extremely simple explanation for this is it basically is a gateway that allows me to connect to different apps. So the one that I like to use is Zapier, but you can also set up your own MCP server, not as hard as it sounds. In fact, there's actually a skill that walks you through how to do this. And like I said, there's just a bunch of them out there that make this really easy. So once I've connected to my MCP server and then had that connect to YouTube, I can then do some pretty cool things. So for example, whenever I'm trying to learn something, I'll bring in the YouTube skill, and this will pull results from YouTube without all the fluff and ads and all that sort of stuff. Plus, it automatically applies the filters that I want it to. Only show videos with a certain number of views, make sure the duration is under a certain time, things like that. Then it'll also give me just a quick summary of what's in each video and a recommendation for which one I should choose according to the topic I'm trying to get to. And I've also set it up to where if it can't find good results originally, then it'll try and search that using a different term. So I can explain exactly what I'm trying to find in natural language, and it finds really good results. And of course, if I really want control, I just go directly to YouTube. But this allows me to do it within the chat, and of course I could combine this with other skills too. And I can also use my MCP server to connect with other apps that are not natively available on Claude. There's no LinkedIn connector in Claude, so if I want to draft LinkedIn posts based on the skills I've already set up, my MCP server allows me to do that. So for example, I can ask Claude to read through my most recent newsletter, turn that content into a post, fact check it, cut it in half, check it with HR, then post on LinkedIn. Now, obviously with all of this, the human element is still important. So you gotta check your drafts and make sure you're thinking yourself and all that sort of stuff. But this definitely supercharges my effort, and it's been pretty awesome. But if you really wanna take this to the max, you need to be using Claude Cowork. As you might already know, Claude Cowork just connects to your actual computer, and there's lots of really good benefits to this. Number one, it can actually access and edit the files on your computer. For example, I could have it point to a folder on my desktop with meeting notes, then have it create items in my project tracker in Slack based on that meeting. But the real benefit of Claude Cowork and tools like OpenClaw is persistent memory, which is just a fancy way of just saying it remembers things because it actually stores that information on a file on your computer. And that means, among other things, you can ask it to do something and it will actually remember to do it. And because it's always running, you can schedule specific tasks. So for example, instead of having to ask it to prep me for a meeting, I can have it just do that for me automatically. Every morning at a certain time, it sends me my brief for the day, what I need to know for each meeting and how I can prepare, plus any files or emails or action items that I need to be aware of before going into that meeting. Another way I like to use this is having it give me a summary of what happened overnight. I have clients all over the world, so usually I'll wake up with a flood of emails and Slack messages from my team and all sorts of things like that, and it's hard to catch up on each of those things individually. So what I have it do is give me a summary every morning of what I need to know. And if I really wanted to take this to the next level, I could have it do research on my competitors or the stock market or economy or whatever I want to include in this in my morning brief. Another thing you can do is just have it automatically draft email responses to any unread emails that you have. This allows you to just check your email and then either hit send, make some changes, or just discard the email completely. And you can also install the app on your phone. And with Claude Dispatch, I can message and use skills and different connectors just like as if I was on the computer. Sometimes what I'll do is before I go to bed at night, have it research a certain topic for me and then provide me a brief in the morning. But the main thing I use my phone for is capturing voice notes on the go. Obviously, there's a ton of different tools and apps and skills and things that can do this for you. But I just keep it pretty simple. I record a voice memo on my phone and then I just upload that. And because I have a skill that can transcribe audio, it'll take that and summarize it. So when I'm driving home, for example, I can brainstorm ideas for a video and then it'll clean up that brainstorming and give it to me in whatever format I want. Add items in my project tracker, draft emails, whatever I ask it to do. It can even do research that I ask it to do in the voice memo. So I might say, hey, here's a thing that I'm thinking about doing for my business. Let me know if that's a good idea and get back to me in the morning. And then I just send it. And honestly, these just scratch the surface. I know there's people out there doing some pretty crazy stuff. Not to mention, Anthropic's going to continue to add features and functionality over time. So the best you can do is just stay up to date, experiment a little, and have fun with it.